that big? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 2018 NFL Draft Prospects 101 series, your guide to some of the biggest and hottest names in the 2018 NFL Draft. We're talking linebackers, and this next linebacker that we're going to talk about here on the program is a guy that is a unique specimen, long and tall and rangy, and has athleticism to go with that. He's a guy that I think may have some value in the passing game. Is a guy that you can put on some tight ends and guys out of the backfield, and he can make some plays that way. I'm still not sold on him as a guy that's a true difference maker around the line of scrimmage, but this is the thing that has me intrigued and really, I feel like, gives me hope for him in the future, is that I think his best football is yet to come. I think that his best days are coming, and they're ahead of him. When I watch him and you start to look at the numbers and you start to look at his performances and you start to stack these things on top of each other, you see a guy that's starting to get it, the light bulb's starting to come on, and he's starting to figure some things out. And that right there has me intrigued, and I think that even though I'm not overly impressed with him now, I think down the road he'll actually end up being a really solid pro. I'm talking about Boise State linebacker Leighton Vander Esch. Let's talk about Leighton Vander Esch and why this guy is probably going to be a first-round pick and go off the board sometime in the latter half of the first round. We'll start with his pros. So you look at Leighton Vander Esch, and obviously the first thing that jumps off the screen at you is his measurables. This guy's 6'4", 256 pounds. He's huge for an inside linebacker. You don't see him that often, that big. That's why everyone's going so crazy over Tremaine Edmunds. But Edmunds comes in a totally different package in terms of speed and athleticism, whereas Vander Esch isn't as fast. 4.65 40 is his speed. Still good enough. And again, what I had to do watching his tape is I had to make sure that I stripped my memory of what I saw with Roquan Smith and Tremaine Edmunds, specifically Tremaine Edmunds, because their body types are so similar. I had to strip what I saw from my memory with those guys and not extrapolate that up on to Leighton Vander Esch, because he's not those guys. And so what you have to do is you have to make sure you don't go in with the bias and preconceived notion that he's supposed to look and perform like those guys, because he's not them. He's not Tremaine Edmunds. He doesn't possess that kind of athleticism. So you can't go into the process looking at him and comparing him to Tremaine Edmunds, because you'll fall into the trap of thinking that this guy isn't an athlete when he really is. So 4.65 40, that's plenty of speed for a guy his size. Keep in mind, 6'4", 256. He's got good athleticism. I think where the athleticism shows itself is when he's in the passing game, when he's dropping into zone coverage, when he's in man-to-man, when he's running around chasing tight ends, when he's dropping back into coverage and he's comfortable and he's reading the quarterback's eyes and breaking on the football. That's when you truly get to see the athleticism that Leighton Vander Esch possesses. So he's really got athleticism, and that does come with his package. Redirect, does a good job of changing directions and flowing to the football. I got to see that against BYU, where he was able to make a rangy play, something that he doesn't do very often, and I don't think it's one of his strengths per se, but you got to see the change of direction and him make a play. Awareness. This is a guy that plays the game under control. You rarely see Leighton Vander Esch out of control. He's very, very calculated in his movements, doesn't waste a lot of steps, especially when you look at a team trying to run play action fake. He's not taking a bunch of false steps toward the line of scrimmage. He's waiting in his stance to see what's going to happen. He doesn't shoot his gun very often quickly. That's why there aren't a ton of tackles for losses with Leighton Vander Esch throughout his career. He plays a little bit further away from the line of scrimmage, but in any event, he's very, very cautious as to his movements, doesn't waste a lot of them. So he's very aware. You want to run play action fake, going to be hard to sneak that crossing route behind him, because he's not going to sync up to play action fake and suck up and give you an opportunity to have that easy throwing lane. So he's very aware on the football field. Taking on blocks is one of his biggest strong suits right now in the run game. Now, there's one thing to be said about taking on a block. There's another thing to be said about shedding a block. You can take on a block all day long. Well, guess what? Offensive linemen want to block you. So taking on a block is half of the job. You got to take on that block and then defeat that block. The other half of the equation, he's still working on that. Okay, he's written the problem down, and he knows what the equation is that he has to use to solve the problem. He just hasn't gotten the answer yet. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but he takes on blocks. He's not running around blocks. Now, I will say that he does something that does annoy me. We'll talk about that a little bit later on as well, but he takes on blocks. That's something you can count on with Leighton Vander Esch. Tackling ability, he's really solid as a tackler, man. It's not physical, okay? He's not coming up and jacking anybody up. But if he grabs you by the ankle, he's not letting go. I can assure you of that. If Leighton Vander Esch grabs you by your ankles, you're not getting away from him. He's going to wrap that ankle up and hold on. And if you got to hold on for dear life until the cavalry arrives, he'll do that, or he'll twist and turn and get you down on the ground. But generally speaking, he's a really good, solid tackler. And once he gets you by the legs, you're done ski. Man coverage, he's solid in man coverage. I really didn't have to see him run too often down the field in man coverage. A lot of what he did in man coverage was underneath. I think what we really got to see on tape with him was zone coverage, and I think he excels at zone coverage. The best example of him killing it in zone coverage was Fresno State. Late in that ball game, they needed a play to secure the victory. They were up late in that ball game. Fresno State had the football with a chance to tie or take the lead and win. And we're under 2 minutes in this game, so we're talking crunch time. And Leighton Vander Esch reads the eyes of the quarterback, who is trying to throw the football to a crossing route that's on the opposite side of the field. Vander Esch is able to locate the quarterback's eyes, see what he's trying to do. He falls underneath. Quarterback never saw him. Falls underneath that crossing route from the opposite side, undercuts the route, picks it off, and gets down on the ground. Game, set, match. Boise State wins over ranked Fresno State. Huge win for Boise State. The Broncos getting that win, and Vander Esch putting the sealer on that W. So in zone coverage, I think he does a tremendous job of getting depth in his drops and reading the eyes of the quarterback and going and making plays. He had 3 INTs this season, 4 in his career, but 3 of them came in 2017, which kind of lends itself to what I said earlier, that I think his best football is on the horizon. He's starting to figure things out. Forced 4 fumbles in 2017. He's got 4 career forced fumbles, all in 2017. So again, you're seeing the maturation of a player that's starting to get it, starting to make an impact and put his stamp on the game, forcing fumbles, getting interceptions, creating turnovers. Leighton Vander Esch is starting to figure things out, and that's why I think his best football is yet to come. Blitzing capability, 5 career sacks. This is a guy that I think, if put into right situations, he can get to the quarterback and hit home. Is he a great blitzer? No. Does he come with any moves to get to the quarterback? No. But if you put him in a situation where he's the last blitzer, let's say you're coming with 6 on a blitz, and he's that last guy swooping over from the A to the B gap, I think he's the kind of guy that can hit home in a situation like that. So in an overload or something like that, I think he times those up pretty well. But if you're telegraphing blitz and he's coming, he's probably not going to defeat the block to get to the quarterback. But he's got the capability to blitz. So that's something else you get with Leighton Vander Esch. So we go from his pros to some of his cons and some of the things that I think he needs to work on to improve his game at the next level. So the first con that you look at with Leighton Vander Esch is his closing speed, and there's not really much he can do about that. It is what it is. And again, I tried my hardest not to compare him to Tremaine Edmonds and Roquan Smith in this regard, but I saw a similar play that both of those guys executed, and they executed it to the point where you were just wowed. And a quarterback rolls out, and it was against BYU. Quarterback rolls out of the pocket. He's standing there, and Leighton Vander Esch says, "You know what? I'm coming after you." And it seemed like it took him forever to get there. And it didn't, but it just felt like it did, because watching those other two, it was like a blur. So his closing speed isn't quite what those other guys' closing speed are. And it's probably not as bad as I'm making it out to be, but it's not gonna blow you away. It's not gonna take your breath away. So his closing speed, it is what it is. I'm not gonna kill him for that. You know what I mean? And what he lacks in closing speed, he makes up for in length. So even though he's not getting there as quick, he's so long, I think it does make up the difference between some of the reaction time and the closing speed of some of the other guys in this particular draft. And the next con is stacking and shedding and slipping blocks. I want to start with the bad because there is some good in here. He loses ground. I talked about a pet peeve earlier in the video and that I was going to get to it. Here's my pet peeve with him. When you run away from him, when you run to the numbers, when you stretch it and string out a play, when you're running the football laterally, or you're running the football wide to try to get up the field. When teams decide they want to run zone or something that's stretching you out as a defense, he goes around blocks and he loses ground to go around blockers. When you run right at him, when it's a power run, then he takes on blockers with no problem. It's when he's looking to try to get to the outside, he's going around blockers, and it's a little disconcerting. It's a little disheartening because he's losing ground and he's not giving himself a chance to get to the plate, not taking the most direct angle to the football. And it's also giving that offensive lineman even more ground up the field, because most likely he's still going to get his hands on Vander Esch. And if you're going up the field, you're giving that offensive lineman even more leeway to get upfield and make a even bigger lane for the running back. So, and a lot of times you're taking yourself out of the play when you do that. So I don't like when he tries to slip blocks when he's running wide. But in any event, his final game of his collegiate career against Oregon was arguably the best game I saw on tape from him in terms of shedding blockers and getting in the backfield and being a presence, a physical one around the line of scrimmage, getting in the backfield, knifing in tackles for loss, tackle for no gain. He was really aggressive in that game. And if we can get that from him moving forward on a consistent basis, Leighton Vander Esch is going to be a problem at the next level. That's what I need to see from him. That kind of demeanor, that kind of mentality and mindset that I'm going to get to the ball carrier. I'm going to run through your block attempt and I'm going to get where I need to go and make a play for my team. That's what I want to see from him moving forward. But I didn't see that enough. But again, which speaks volumes and speaks towards what I said earlier. I think his best football is ahead of him. That was his final game of his collegiate career. And range is something, again, that kind of goes with the closing speed, but range isn't something that I think is his strongest attribute. I think you can outrun him. If you've got speed, you can outrun Leighton Vander Esch to the corner. I don't know if his range is what you would call top notch. I think it's solid. It's quality range. It's not going to be a game changer though. So again, it is what it is. You know, I'm not going to kill him for it. And what he lacks in closing speed and range, I think he makes up for it a little bit with his length. So that's Leighton Vander Esch in a nutshell, man. The guy is a really solid, quality football player. If you're drafting him in the first round, you're drafting him on upside. I don't think the tape screams to me first round pick. It doesn't. But what it says is that you draft me with the upside and the potential for me to be one of the better linebackers in this draft class 2-3 years down the road. And if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for a guy that you can continue to develop, and again, when I draft in the first round, I'm looking for elite. I don't see elite in Leighton Vander Esch right now, but that doesn't mean he won't be elite 2-3 years down the road. And that's where, if you're projecting, you take him in the first round if you think you can turn him into that guy, because right now I don't think he is that guy. Not like Tremaine Edmonds right now, not like Roquan Smith. Right now you draft them day one, they're coming in and they're one of the best football players on your football team. That's what you're looking for when you draft a guy in the first round. And I don't see that with Leighton Vander Esch. But in any event, that's Leighton Vander Esch and his draft prospects 101 breakdown. If it happens in the National Football League, you know your man Louie T got you covered. And if you want to know what I gave him as a score and where he ranks among his peers, check out the website louietnetwork.net. Remember, we're changing the game over here, period. A lot more where that came from. So come on back. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.